Hello my beautiful viewers and welcome back to my channel. I can finally say welcome back to my channel because this is my second video. Today we're going to be discussing yet another true crime case. I mean, what did you expect? That's what my channel is about here. Today I'm going to be covering the second case I ever researched. I swear I'm not going in order. I only remember up to number 4. That's it. I don't keep track of them. But I really wanted to cover this case because it really is just so strange. Today we are going to be covering a serial killer case, and we are going to be talking about the case of the Axeman of New Orleans. This case is extremely interesting, extremely weird, and just like last week, this week's case is also unsolved. And not only is it unsolved, but there really only is like one main suspect, you guys. So a lot of serial killer cases have a ton of different suspects, but this one literally only has one. But before we get into this video, I just want to give a disclaimer that this video is not meant to be disrespectful to any of the victims mentioned. My videos are made for 2 reasons. 1, to spread awareness, and 2, to educate. And this video is made to serve those 2 reasons, but not to be disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. So without further ado, let's get into the case of the Axeman of New Orleans. So this case, as I mentioned before, is unsolved, and it takes place in New Orleans, Louisiana. Fun fact, when I was like 10 or 11, I used to think that New Orleans was actually in Florida. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. You know, I'm blaming it on school because we didn't learn US geography very much in there. We should have, yet we didn't. And the murders that we're going to be talking about today take place from 1918 to 1919, in between that time period. Before we get into the timeline, I want to establish some weird little things, I guess you could say, that the Axeman did during his time of terror, or I guess more so the traits of the crimes that he committed. All of his attacks were committed at home, like his victims' homes, at night, usually when the victims were sleeping, or he thought they were sleeping. And weirdly enough, all of the weapons used, usually an axe, were always the victim's weapons. The Axeman would never use any of his own weapons, which was really odd. So, without further ado, let's get on into the timeline. So on May 23rd, 1918, and I do just want to give a little disclaimer that if you look up this case, some of the dates kind of like, it's back and forth between one day and another. So I wrote down May 23rd, but some sources say that it was May 22nd. I think it's like this because these murders did take place at night, so I think it's kind of a different thing between 9, 10, 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. in the early hours of the morning, if that makes any sense. So maybe that's why the dates kind of fluctuate like that. But I just wanted to let you know, in case some of you have already looked up this case and you're like, this is lying. Those aren't the right dates. So on May 23rd, 1918, Catherine and Joseph Maggio were attacked in their own home, which was located on Magnolia Street. They reportedly were attacked after coming home from a night on the town and trying to get some rest. Can you guess what they were attacked with? By the name of this serial killer. Can you just guess what they were attacked with? I want you to put your guesses in right now. If you guessed an axe, you would be absolutely correct. However, they weren't only just attacked with an axe, they were actually also attacked with a straight razor. Their throats were slit with this straight razor, and then they had also been bashed and attacked with the axe. I'm sorry, my dog is outside barking and there's not really anything you can do about it, so we're just gonna move on. The couple was found by Joseph's 2 brothers, Jake and Andrew, at around 4 a.m. that morning. The brothers lived right next door to the couple, and they heard some groaning noises and thought that they would go check it out, and this is when they found the couple had been brutally attacked. Now, Joseph actually survived for a few minutes after he was found, but quickly passed away. However, Catherine passed away before the brothers arrived. Her injuries were so severe that she had almost fully been decapitated because of the throat slit that had been made with the straight razor. Now, obviously this case is sad, but at least Joseph passed away with his brothers by his side. He literally survived for hours, and only minutes after his brothers arrived is when he passed away, so at least he didn't die alone. Now, when police arrived on the scene, they almost immediately ruled out a robbery or I guess, more of a robbery gone wrong, because none of the couple's valuables were missing. None of their jewelry, none of their money, nothing like that was missing out of their house, so why would this be a robbery? Police found that a panel on their kitchen door had been knocked out or chiseled out, so they assumed that the killer probably got in this way. The two weapons that were used were found. The axe was found. I'm not sure if it was in the house or by the house, but the straight razor was found a couple houses down, I believe, or maybe even a few blocks down. Now, I have two pieces of evidence, and I say evidence with quotation marks because I'm not really sure. I saw these on a few different sources, but not on all of them, so take these with a grain of salt. Some sources said that bloody clothes were actually found inside the Maggio's home, so seemingly the person who had killed them brought their own clothes, committed these murders, took off their clothes, left them there, and changed into new clothes. Probably so that when they were leaving the house, they wouldn't be questioned or anything of the sort. If they had blood on them, no one was going to stop them and be like, hey, why do you have blood on you? No one was going to be doing that because he wouldn't have blood on him. Also, if the police found the clothes in his house, that would definitely make him a suspect, and they couldn't find the clothes in his house if they were left in the victim's home. Another piece of evidence that the way that the lights are flickering right now. Another piece of evidence that I don't really believe myself, but was listed on a few sources, is a message that was found that was supposedly written by the killer himself. Some sources say that this message was written in chalk, others say it was written in blood, and there were two different messages that I found. One makes more sense than the other, but they're both kind of weird. So some sources said that the message said, quote, "Miss Joseph Maggio will sit up tonight. Just write Mrs. Tony." Nobody knows who Miss Tony is, so we don't know, but that message doesn't really make any sense. Other sources said that the message was, quote, "Miss Maggio will sit up late tonight, just like Mrs. Tony." But again, no one knows who Mrs. Tony is, and this message really just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, not sure what's up with that. It would make sense if the message was written in chalk, but if it was written in blood, like, where did the blood come from? If the clothes thing is true, it obviously didn't come from his clothes. He would have had to like bottle up blood, and like, ew, like why, you know? So, you know, I'm not really sure if I believe that, but you know, take that with a grain of salt. Obviously, when this attack was committed, nobody knew that this was a serial killer in the making. Everyone just thought that maybe someone was mad at the Maggios or didn't like them. So instead of saying, hey, who around here has a sick, twisted mind that is going to go kill other people, they were sitting there thinking, hey, who's mad at these Maggio people? And one person that was a suspect was actually Andrew, which was Joseph's brother. Now, he didn't really seemingly have a motive as to why he would kill the Maggios, especially his own brother, but there were some pieces of evidence that made Andrew a suspect in the police's eyes. Andrew was actually a barber, which means that he had access to all different types of razors, including a straight razor. And a client of Andrew's actually saw him trying to take home a straight razor. And when asked about it, Andrew said that he wanted to take it home so he could sharpen it. So this seemed a little odd, and police obviously knew about this, questioned him about it, but apparently this didn't get them too far because Andrew was not arrested and he was not really questioned any further, honestly. He was not considered a suspect anymore, and these murders just went unsolved. Everyone just thought this was a one-off murder that was absolutely horrible, of course, but like I said, everyone just thought it was a one-time thing. Up until June 28th, 1918, when Anna Lowe and Louis Bessemer were attacked in their home at night, just like Catherine and Joseph. Now, Anna Lowe, actually her name is Harriet, but she went by Anna, so I'm going to be calling her Anna. The couple was found by a baker. Now, some sources say that this baker was delivering bread, and other sources say that this baker was delivering ingredients, because Louis Bessemer actually owned a bakery, and when the baker found them, they were extremely injured, like severely injured. I mean, obviously they had been attacked with an axe. Louis and Anna both survived, but Anna actually only survived for I think like 7 weeks-ish after the attack, and then she unfortunately passed away. So that's about a month and 3 weeks that she survived. Again, kind of like the attack on the Maggios, a panel was missing from one of their doors, specifically the bedroom door. It was the bottom panel that was missing, so seemingly this killer had gotten in again through the panel of the door, or more so the missing panel of the door. And a bloody axe was found at the crime scene. When Anna was questioned about this incident, she at first said that she couldn't really remember much or whatnot, which extremely understandable. I mean, she had been attacked by an axe, but she ended up saying that the person that attacked her and her husband was a large white man with a hatchet. So that's the first description that we have of this serial killer. Following this attack, a 41-year-old black man that worked for Louis Bessemer in his bakery was attacked. Hey, what's up? I look like crap right now, but I'm editing. I meant to say he was arrested, not attacked. So this is not a victim of the Axeman. This is someone who's arrested. So I don't know why I said attacked. I don't know what happened there, but he was arrested, not attacked. All right, so just wanted to make that clear. And this was just blatant racism. There were so many other people that worked for Louis Bessemer that literally had not even been looked at once by the police, but of course the only black man was arrested. It seems like racism to me. Actually, it doesn't seem like racism. It is racism. It's literally racism. But obviously they didn't have any other reason to arrest him besides the fact that he worked for Louis, so they of course had to release him. They didn't really have anything else on him. Something I forgot to say, I guess I didn't really write this down on my notes, but when I was researching, some sources said that Anna Lowe actually said that a man of mixed race attacked them before she came up with the whole white man attacked them thing. So again, take that with a grain of salt. That was only on some sources. So then the sequence of events in that one would be her not remembering, then her saying that a man of mixed race attacked them, and then her saying that a white man attacked them. That would be the sequence of events, but again, I don't know if this is true, so take this with a grain of salt. The third attack happened on August 5th, 1918, when Anna Schneider was found by her husband, and she had been attacked with an axe. Mrs. Schneider was still alive, and she was rushed to a hospital called Charity Hospital. Also, may I mention that Miss Schneider was actually pregnant at the time of this attack. She survived the attack and actually gave birth to a healthy baby girl not too long after the attack had happened. Now, some sources say that Mrs. Schneider was attacked with an axe, and some sources say that she actually was not attacked with an axe at all. Some sources say that she thinks that she was attacked by her bedside lamp, but again, this case is so old that things just constantly get mixed up. So again, take that with a grain of salt. You guys already know what I'm gonna say. That's gonna be my saying for this video. Anna did say, however, that she saw a dark figure leaving her room, but couldn't really give a description of this dark figure. On further investigation from the police, it was found that an axe was actually missing out of the Schneider's shed. Now, a man named James Gleason was actually arrested for this attack, and the reason he was arrested was honestly kind of stupid. He was arrested because he was seen out in public by the police and started running from them. So of course police found this a little suspicious. They brought him in and thought that maybe he was the person committing these murders, because at this point they were starting to kind of connect them. They're like, all right, the gig is up. This is definitely not a one-time thing. This is definitely the same person. But when asked when he had run from the police, James said it was because he had been in and out of prison a lot of his life, and so he's just kind of learned to be scared of police. The next attack was only 5 days later, on August 10th, 1918. This attack happened to Joseph Romano, and he was found by his nieces Pauline and Mary. They had heard him struggling and went to go check on him, and they of course found him attacked. The nieces claimed that they saw a, quote, dark, tall, and heavyset man wearing a dark suit and a black slouch hat leaving the scene. So I'm reading from my notes over here, so if I'm looking down, that's why. When asked what they meant by dark, they said that this man had dark skin, so they thought that this man was probably black. When police investigated, they found an axe in the back garden of the house, and again, a door panel had actually been knocked out. I'm not sure on which door or what panel, but a door panel had been knocked out. Joseph survived for a little bit, but he ended up dying 2 days later, unfortunately. So at this point, police were obviously doing everything that they could to try and find who was doing this, but they honestly just couldn't. Every suspect that they had brought in so far ended up not having enough evidence on them to be arrested for these murders, or to be kept in jail for these murders, I should say. So the police of New Orleans started kind of going out and patrolling things and whatnot, because they thought that maybe if they did this, that the Axeman would stop because there were so many police. And he actually did for a while. That is until March 10th, 1919. So we're getting into the new year now. We're getting into 1919. This is when Rose Cortimiglia woke up to find her husband Charles Cortimiglia fighting off the Axeman, or at least trying to. Charles obviously lost this fight and was attacked by the Axeman, and so was Rose and their daughter Mary Cortimiglia. Charles and Rose actually both survived this attack, but unfortunately their daughter Mary did not. I mean, obviously she was a little baby, or at least an infant at that. She was not going to be surviving a brutal hit or two from an axe. They were found by their neighbor and they were rushed to the hospital, obviously. It was found that the Cortimiglias were actually attacked with their own axe, so here we go with the attacked with their own weapons thing. They were attacked with their own axe. When Rose was questioned about this, she actually said that the neighbors had attacked her. And the neighbor that had found her was this older man. He was about 60 years old, and the police just did not think that he was capable of doing this. When police told Rose this, she goes, oh, no. If it wasn't him, then it had to have been his son, Frank. So now she was saying that his son Frank had attacked her and her husband and had killed her daughter. But when these claims were taken to Charles, Charles said that he didn't know what she was talking about, that the neighbors did not attack them. Charles said that after the attack and the death of their child, that Rose kind of went crazy in a sense, and so she was never really the same. And I mean, how could she be? Like, that is such a brutal and horrific thing to go through. Even though Charles denied these claims, both neighbors, the neighbor and his son, were actually arrested. The older neighbor was sentenced to life in prison, and his son was actually supposed to be sentenced to death. Like, are you kidding me? But Charles actually decided that he was going to divorce Rose, and very quickly after, I guess, she kind of had some like sense knocked into her, because she went back to the police and said that what she had said to them about the neighbors attacking her wasn't true, that the neighbors actually had not attacked her, so they were let free. And I'm so glad that she said something before Frank was sentenced to death. Like, holy shit, he would have just been killed for something that he didn't do. I don't know why they were arrested when Charles was saying that they didn't do anything. It doesn't make any sense, but they were. But like I said, they were let free. But absolutely crazy to me that someone that didn't do anything literally almost got sentenced to death. Now, something interesting that happened on March 15th, 1919, and it wasn't a murder. This time it was a letter. A newspaper company called the Times-Picayune. I'll put it on screen here right now and you can try and figure out how to pronounce that, because I'm horrible at pronouncing things. They received a letter that was from the Axeman. Obviously we can't say for sure this was the Axeman, because obviously we don't know who he is, but it was signed from the Axeman. And actually, weirdly enough, but I'm honestly not surprised, the letter said that it came from hell. Yeah, you know the return address where it says where your mail's coming from? Yeah, it literally just said hell. I am going to read you guys the full letter. Whenever I watched videos on this case, when I first learned about it a couple of years ago, the people making the videos only include a few snippets of the letter or just summarize it, but I want you guys to hear the full thing. It is extremely long, so I hope that you don't mind, but I want you guys to hear the whole letter. It's very interesting and some parts just don't really make sense. Also, the date in the letter was March 13th, which you'll see in a minute, and that is when this letter was being written, not the day it was received. Like I said, it was received by the Times-Picayune on the 15th of March, so 2 days later. So I have my handy dandy notebook here, and I'm going to be reading the Axeman's letter, so get your popcorn because this is a long one. The letter read, quote, "Hottest hell, March 13th, 1919. Esteemed mortal of New Orleans, the Axeman. They have never caught me, and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether which surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from hottest hell. I am what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman. When I see fit, I shall come and claim other victim. I alone know whom they shall be. I shall leave no clue except for my bloody axe, besmeared with blood and brains of he whom I have sent below to keep me company. If you wish, you may tell the police to be careful not to rile me. Of course, I am a reasonable spirit. I take no offense at the way that they have conducted their investigations in the past. In fact, they have been so utterly stupid as to not only amuse me, but his satanic majesty. But tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover what I am, for it were better if they were never born than to incur the wrath of the Axeman. I don't think there is any need of such warning, for I feel sure the police will always dodge me, as they have in the past. They are wise and know how to keep away from all harm. Undoubtedly, you Orleanians think of me as a most horrible murderer, which I am. But I could be much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay a visit to your city every night. At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens, and the worst, for I am in close relationship with the Angel of Death. Now, to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time on next Tuesday night, I'm going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I'm going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I'm very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well then, so much the better for you people. One thing is for certain, and that is some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe. Well, as I am cold and crave the warmth of my native Tartarus, and it is about time I leave your earthly home, I will cease my discourse, hoping that thou wilt publish this, that it may go well with thee. I have been, am, and will be the worst spirit that ever existed, either in fact or in realm of fancy. Then he signed this letter off with the name, the Axeman. This is a long letter, and this letter really freaked people out seriously. Specifically, one of the last parts where he said that he would kill anyone that wasn't listening to jazz music on the upcoming Tuesday night. So the Tuesday night in question was March 19th, 1919, and if you're wondering how that night went, let me tell you. People were obsessed with jazz that night, let me tell you, because they didn't want to incur the wrath of the Axeman, as he said in his letter. So people played jazz on their record players in their homes, and anyone who did not have a record player went to jazz clubs so that they could stay clear of the Axeman. I think there were like a few people that didn't do this. Maybe they were trying to catch the Axeman and they were like, well, if I don't play music, then he's gonna show up. But if you're wondering if anyone was murdered that night, not a single person was. The events of this night actually sparked the creation of a song titled Don't Scare Me Papa, also known as the Axeman's Jazz. So now that we're done with that little bit, we're going to get back into the timeline of murders. On August 10th, 1919, a man named Steve Boca woke up to find a dark figure with an axe looming over him, and right as he opened his eyes, he was attacked. Like, barely opened his eyes, and he was being swung at with an axe. After he was attacked, he fell unconscious for a few hours, and when he came to, he knew he needed to get help from someone. So he crawled his way over to his neighbor's house to try and call for help. However, he collapsed right outside of their house. They actually found him and called help for him, and so he was taken to the hospital. His head was seriously, severely bashed in, and he honestly could not really remember much from this attack. He actually had to be told that he was attacked because he basically forgot that he had been. This memory loss was obviously probably due to him being hit in the head so many times. When his home was investigated, it was found, surprise, surprise, that a door panel again had been knocked out. About a month or so later, in early September of 1919, another person was attacked. Sarah Lumen, who was only 19 by the way, was attacked with an axe. Whoever had attacked her, the Axeman, got in through an open window in her home. Her neighbors found her basically clinging on to life, like she was almost dead, and called for help. She obviously was rushed to the hospital, and she actually did survive. However, she had a lot of teeth missing, probably because she had been hit in the head so many times, and her head was severely injured because of these blows to the head as well. Not surprisingly, an axe was actually found in her front lawn. So, are you guys ready to hear about the final Axeman attack? because that's where we're going right now. The final attack of the Axeman happened on October 27th, 1919, and this attack took place in the Pepitone residence. Esther Pepitone woke up to hear noises coming from her bedroom that she shared with Mike Pepitone. I think that Esther probably fell asleep on the couch maybe because she, like I said, heard the noises coming from her bedroom, which means that she wasn't in her bedroom. Obviously, Esther heard these noises and got up to go check what they were and witnessed two people fleeing the scene of her husband being attacked. So yes, Mike Pepitone had been attacked, but what's weird about this, if it was the Axeman and it was labeled as an Axeman attack, is that she saw two people fleeing the scene. Not one, but two. Her husband Mike had been attacked with an axe 18 times. So this was weird because a lot of the victims of the Axeman had only been hit a few times. They were brutal blows, don't get me wrong, but it was 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5 at most times. Mike, however, had been hit in the head 18 times with an axe. So obviously police were called, and surprisingly when they got there, Esther seemed suspiciously calm. She did not seem like someone who just witnessed two people that had brutally attacked and killed her husband flee her house. She was not acting like police thought she should have been. And obviously people cope with things in different ways, don't get me wrong, but police just thought that she was acting straight up weird. They just thought that she seemed a little too calm and collected. So obviously Mike had been attacked with an axe. However, it was thought that a bolt with a heavy nut or some type of bolt was used in this attack as well, and this was something that was used to hold down a circus tent. And surprise, surprise, a circus was actually present in New Orleans at that time. So that was the last attack of the Axeman, and after that, his reign of terror was seemingly done. Now, I'm going to get into the suspects, or more so the theories, because as I mentioned before, there is only one suspect, which like I said is so weird to me. I've never really seen a serial killer case where there is like literally like no suspects. So first, I'm going to be talking about some theories. The first theory is that not all of the killings credited to the Axeman were actually the work of the Axeman. Some of the killings were actually scrutinized by the public and were thought to not have to do with the Axeman at all. The second attack from the Axeman on Louis Bessemer and Anna Lowe was actually thought to not be an Axeman killing, and let me tell you why. Anna obviously gave many different descriptions of this man. She, like I said that she couldn't remember anything at first, and then she reportedly said that it was a man of mixed race that attacked her, and then she said it was a white man that attacked her. But she actually ended up telling police that it was her husband, Louis Bessemer, that had attacked her. She said that Louis was a German spy. She actually called him a Nazi spy, and she said that when she found this out, she went to confront him about it, and he started attacking her. So it was thought that maybe Louis actually was a German spy and had attacked her, and this wasn't the work of the Axeman at all. Louis was actually arrested for Anna's murder, but ended up being acquitted at some point for whatever reason. Another one of the Axeman's killings that was credited to him that people think might not have been him was the last attack on Esther and Mike Pepitone. More so Mike, obviously. So people think that this attack or this murder could have actually been a mafia killing because Mike's dad actually had killed someone before, and a lot of people think that the mafia killed Mike in order to get revenge or to get back at Mike or the Pepitone family. And it would make sense too because like I said, the Axeman usually would hit his victims up to 5 times at most, but this was 18 different times. It would also make sense that this was a mafia killing because Esther saw 2 people leaving her bedroom that night, and with other Axeman attacks that were credited to the Axeman, obviously, it was only one person that was ever seen standing over someone or fleeing their bedroom. So why would there be 2 people? But again, this is just a theory. It cannot be proven that this was a mafia killing. Another theory, besides the fact that the Axeman did not commit all these murders, maybe some of them were copycats or had nothing to do with the Axeman at all, but another theory besides that was that the Axeman was actually not a person at all. Like he said, he was actually a spirit. A lot of people thought that the Axeman was a spirit. I mean, he said so in his letter. He called himself a spirit. He said that he wasn't a human being. A lot of people thought that maybe he was some type of ghost or supernatural figure that could squeeze in their door panels, because door panels are pretty small. How was this big man that people were seeing squeezing through these little door panels? Like, it just didn't make any sense. So a lot of people thought he was a spirit that could squeeze through door panels. This theory is not really popular, but some people do think it, so I thought I would include it. I don't really believe it, but you know. So now let's get into the actual suspect. A man named Joseph Mumphrey. I'm sure you've probably heard this name before. So who is Joseph Mumphrey, you may ask, and how is he related to this case? Well, let me tell you. After the murder of her husband Mike, Esther Pepitone moved to LA about a year later and remarried to a man named Angelo Albano. And actually, on the 2-year anniversary of Mike's death, Esther's new husband Angelo, that I just mentioned, went missing on the exact day that was the anniversary, the 2-year anniversary of Mike Pepitone's death. Esther was then greeted at her door. I'm not sure if it was that night or a few days later. I couldn't really find a date on that, but Esther was greeted at her door by a man named Joseph Mumphrey, who had seemingly done business with her husband Angelo multiple times. So instead of giving Miss Pepitone, a friendly, warm welcome, he decided that instead he was going to stand out there and demand for $500 and all of her jewelry. So Esther was actually very smart about this, and she said, okay, I'll go get my jewelry and $500, just give me a minute. As you can probably assume, Esther did not give him any of her jewelry or money, and she actually came back with a revolver and then shot Joseph to death. When Esther was arrested and brought in for questioning for this murder, and she was asked, well, why did you do it? She said that Joseph Mumphrey was actually the Axeman, and that she had seen him flee from her room that night, which again is weird because she saw 2 people, but she was saying now that it was just Joseph. So I don't know, her story's not seeming too straight, but that is just what she said, so there's that. But also, Joseph Mumphrey led a blackmailing gang that preyed on Italians. And guess what? Most of the Axeman's victims, if not all of them, were Italian. So, holy this guy was clearly a racist. But other than that, you guys, there really is nothing to say that Joseph is the Axeman. Maybe Joseph did kill Mike Pepitone, but maybe he wasn't the Axeman. Maybe it was a one-time thing and he just tried to make it look like the Axeman. You know what I'm saying? So that's basically it on that. I do have another suspect, but he has never really been linked with this case. But people do talk about him sometimes, and his name is Jake Bird. If you look up Jake Bird, you can find his whole story. I'm not going to tell it here and now because we are focusing on the case of the Axeman of New Orleans. However, Jake was arrested and sentenced to death for a double murder that he committed. I think he was about 50 or so when he was arrested for this, and he told police that he had committed a bunch of other murders. I think he said like 40 to 45 different murders throughout his life. And guess what? Jake actually lived in New Orleans as a teenager. Crazy, right? So you're hearing about this door panel, you know, the small door panel that someone is seemingly getting through, and you're like, well, how is this full-grown man fitting through this door panel? Well, it would make sense if it was Jake Bird because he was a teenager and he could have possibly fit through that door panel. Another thing about Jake Bird is that he is black. And remember, the nieces of Joseph Romano, Pauline and Mary, described the man that they saw leaving the scene as dark, and when asked about it, they said that they thought that he had dark skin. But Jake Bird was never named as an official suspect on this case. There is definitely not enough evidence linking him to it. But yeah, I don't think Jake Bird did this, but I did want to bring that up because I know some people connect his name to this case, but he was never an official suspect. So once again, take that with a grain of salt. You already knew I was going to say it. So yeah, that is it for today's video. This case, like I said, is just so weird. Like, I just think it's kind of funny that the fact that this man's whole letter was basically the serial killer letter template where they go, the police are stupid, they haven't caught me yet, I'll never be caught, here's a threat. Except he was like, alright, you know, me, the Axeman, your police are stupid, I'm threatening to kill you, I also like jazz. Just a weird thing to put on your resume there. But like I said, that is everything. Thank you guys for watching, thank you for your support, and chime up in the comments down below, let me know who you think did it, if you think Joseph did it, if you think that one of these was not the work of the Axeman. You know, any thoughts you have on this case, let me know down below, and I will see you guys next week with another true crime video. Also, don't forget to follow my socials. They are all Kahenzi, so yeah. Bye, guys.